yeshiva high school graduates is that now you're going out into the world. That's irrelevant here. Baruch Hashem, they're not. Next year, they'll be in Eretz Yisrael, some in Lakewood, some in Monsey, some in Passaic. They're going to be in yeshiva for years. And those who are going to pursue careers, the vast majority of them will remain in the Maskerat of Torah, the yeshiva framework, while pursuing parnasa. So, a speech of how you are going to deal with going out into the world really doesn't apply to these young B'nai Torah. But you may not be going out into the world. I want to tell you, the world is coming after you, and coming fast and coming strong. Let me tell you what happened the year 2003. You were born about that, yeah? That's something that happened. There's a certain Russia, his name is Nabil Hilmi, Yamach Shlei B'Zichra, I don't know if he's still alive. He is the dean of a university in Egypt called Al-Zakazik. And what he did, he and a group of his colleagues brought a lawsuit in Switzerland against Jews wherever they may be. What was the lawsuit? That he showed that in the Jewish Bible, after the being in Egypt for so many years, that the Jews borrowed gold and silver and the precious things from the Egyptians, and they never returned it. And he made a calculation that with interest over all these years, this astronomical sum that he wanted to sue Jews all over the world. Okay? There's a Gemara in Sanhedrin. You see, nothing new happens that's not in Torah. The Gemara in Sanhedrin on the Sadi Aleph Amud Aleph, if you don't believe me. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says that when Alexander the Great had conquered the Middle East, so there were Egyptians living in Israel who came to him. And they said, it says in the Jewish Bible, that the Jews borrowed Klei Kesef, Klei Zahav, Ushmabais, Vainatzluas, Mitzrayim. They emptied us out. Those conniving Jews, you can't trust them. We want payment. So Alexander tells the Chachamim, the sages, you have 3 days to give them an answer. An amazing thing happens. A gentleman named Geviha ben Pesisa shows up to the Chachamim. I never heard of Geviha ben Pesisa before. I don't believe there's any statement in the Gemara about halacha or machshava in the name of Geviha ben Pesisa. Don't know if he was a Talmid Chacham or not. And he goes to the Chachamim and he says as follows. He says, allow me to represent the Jews in front of the court of Alexander. And he says, you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. Because if I win, if I'm victorious, then we won. If I lose, then you'll go tell Alexander, who's this Geviha ben Pesisa? I've never heard of him before. He had no right to represent us. And then you can take over. And they said, great idea. A great idea. It's mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Could you imagine the risk? They trusted this Geviha ben Pesisa on the assumption that if he would not be successful, they'd be able to go to Alexander and say, no, we want to retrial because who's Geviha ben Pesisa? What are the chances? What are the chances of Alexander letting a person coming to argue that leave his palace with a head attached to his shoulders? Very, very, very remote possibility. So what's going on over there? You see, when people are coming at you with irrational arguments, when they're coming at you with arguments based on the system that has no value and has no objective truth, they come at you with such a passion based on such a hatred of anybody that claims to have some objective truth. They are so convincing. You get on the defensive and you're afraid to disagree with them. Chazal knew, of course they could easily refute the Egyptian arguments. It's a ridiculous argument. Now, who's the villain in the story? The Jews. Who's the villain in the Exodus story? The Jews are the villains? Who are the bad guys? Of course it's easy to... But Chazal knew, if the man in the street, if Gavia ben Pesisa is not convinced of the emes and all his laws, it's not enough that Chazal knew the emes. The man in the street has to know the emes. The world is going to come at you. They're going to tell you that any religion is primitive. Religion is an anachronism. They're going to tell you that. They're going to say it with a passion. You know it's not true, but they're so passionate about it. You've been 4 years in yeshiva, you stood at Har Sinai. You know the emes. They're going to come at you, pushing you, inciting you, enticing you to accept the morals of a secular culture. Don't remove yourself from the culture. Don't you want to be part of the culture? In these 4 years, you know there's Havel Havolim. They're going to come at you with a pressure to disregard any sense of Hakoras HaToiv, to living in the United States of America, which Meister Feinstein called the Medina Shel Chesed. And you'll say, no, the basis of everything is Hakoras HaToiv. We're not accepting that, because you know what the emes is. Let's get back to Gavia ben Pesisa. Let's get back to them. What was Gavia ben Pesisa's response? He goes back, he goes to Alexander and he says, where did these Egyptians get their source? From the Bible, right? That the Bible, that we took the gold and the silver. That same Bible says that they enslaved us for 400 years. You didn't have to tell them the Chazal that it's only 210. They enslaved us for centuries and we never got paid a penny. They owe us more than we owe them. Alexander tells the Egyptians, you give me an answer. Gave them 3 days. They couldn't think of an answer and they fled to Egypt. And they left their fields. It was a shvius. It was a big simcha for Klal Yisrael. What was with those Egyptians? Why were they so sloppy in their homework? Why did they didn't really, they couldn't read a few psukim before, a few psukim later, to show that such an easy response? Listen carefully. You have learned to live in the Olam HaEmes. You've learned to live in a world that's based on objective truths from Sinai, on values that are objectively emes. The world out there which is going to come at you is an Olam HaSheker. It's an Olam HaSheker because anything that they come up with, any philosophy, any approach, any politics is based on nothing. No objective truth, no emes. It's an Olam HaSheker. And when people know, listen to this, I'm speaking psychologically, but it's deep. When people know that what they're devoting their life to is based on nothing, they become much more passionate than you are. And it's very difficult to refute them because they're so passionate. Whether you're going to end up in Artseinu HaKadesha, you're going to end up in Muncie or Lakewood, you're going to be exposed to this Olam HaSheker. They're going to come at you with convincing and passionate, well, not convincing, but passionate, irrational arguments. What you have learned here, and you have to know, that the Olam HaEmes, the world of truth that you have devoted your lives to, the world of truth that came from Sinai, is not only the corridor to eternity, but it's the only way to achieve true contentment, real happiness in this world. And we do it by confining ourselves to the Dalit Amis of Halacha, to the oasis of Emes and Menuchas HaNefesh that could only be found by being part of the world of Torah, which is the Olam or Emes. That is the world that you are part of now, and that is the world that you have to have the strength of character to believe that this is Emes with all the passion and all the mishigasim that they throw at you. The passion comes from the fact that deep down they know it is based on nothing. What we call in learning in the Beis Medrash, Aboich Svara, comes from the Kishkis, based on absolutely nothing. You know that, and that's what it means by being part of the Olam HaEmes. I would like to ask our wonderful General Studies Principal, Rabbi Benjamin Geiger, to come up and, yeah, he's here, he's ready not to be here. Our host, the chairman of the board, founding chairman of the board of the Sukkah Birkas Yitzchak, Baruch Yitzchak Dror. Yeah, so, I think you stay in the front, and I'll call up the names, give them the document, and Brian will give them the reason in alphabetical order. We'll give them our recognition. You know, Hilka's photography, when you get it, you stop for a second and face Curtis over there. Curtis knows what he's doing. Okay, Tzvi Apter. No masks.
Oh wait, let me get all good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Gabriel Cohen. Ari Friedman. Hello, Gantrow. Mayor Gohari. Bessie Gross. Betsy Cappensley. Joe Leibowitz. To the left. Yitzi Meisel. Akiva Silber. Ariel Sionit. Ron Kendler. Oshidel Munger. Zim Achrayim Menachem Yeshayahu. Please enjoy the reception.